Lone Wolf and Cub. The one that I've heard of. The one that's supposed to be like the one. And although I didn't get the scene where the cart rolls in and then you see these blades chop everybody in half, I guess that comes in the future because apparently Lone Wolf and Cub is a series, not just a movie series, it is a manga series. And people like that manga a lot. It's very old school and it has like that art design behind it, but it brings elements to the table where water is something that is incorporated in here in probably the first way of like showing those movements of sword or sword play, what have you, which would eventually become Demon Slayer, Correctamundo, and that water stance. So it was pretty surreal actually to see all these like styles be laid out and have that reflect how future series would kind of take that in full stride and make it their own and become what anime and all this grand swordplay is today. So that is the cool side of things. Here I think we do get the faster, more intense sword fighting that I low-key was looking for. It feels less of a, hey, we're gonna Star Wars this and Duel of the Fates this together, and more of a like, nah, you get one swipe and you're done, man. So that opening is your lifeline, and if you're not there, if you're not ready, whew, that's all it takes, son. So seeing that type of swordplay and then understanding that that comes from the manga, or have that be the inspiration behind all the flowy, the actionness, is cool. You know, I've been saying this since the whole time that we started this series that it feels like these were the original superheroes, at least for the Japanese, or at least for Japanese folklore, kind of coming up with the idea of someone who is superhuman and able to overpower the normal man. He is no longer a man, he is now the demon of blah blah, he is now the Ghostoftsushima, he is now the Ghostoftsushima. And now, like any good legend out of folklore and word of mouth, Lone Wolf and Cub. Assassin Lone Wolf and Cub. Listen, I just like being the thing, or I just like living, you know what I mean? But when things line up, it almost makes sense. Too much sense. However, the story that we do get is a interesting turn, right? We're used to this sort of feudal lords overstepping their boundaries and like pushing unnecessary rules, which apparently they didn't follow through with most of the time. But it presents a different scenario, almost like the final like note of this scenario is presented before us, and it is the story of the executioner, the person who is in charge of chopping heads off for the emperor, the guy who makes a big grandiose show of displaying the power of the one in ruling. And what happens when that power is no longer needed, or, you know, feared? You know, you got that scene from Invincible where that super OP Omni guy or space guy is like, yo, they're all afraid of me, I'm lonely. And that's your idea of like, all right, well, this guy is too OP. Granted, we can't let him walk anymore. CIA does their thing. And they send in a squad, right? But the guy being the guy, the executioner, the guy that has the skill, the guy who has gone through the bullshit, the guy who has had to slice heads off the people that the emperor has set up to get sliced, goes like, nah, I got a son. And it's that scenario, it's that presentation, the idea of like, listen, son, kid, child, I know you can't understand my words, but through the power of our soul, our bond, and our lineage, do you choose the ball or do you choose the katana? And that is, obviously, that is one of those like hyper exaggerated feels, right? If you take the idea of like a samurai man having to choose between carrying a child all by himself and uh, getting revenge for his quote unquote family or whatever, his honor, what have you, it it is it is like the way to be like, hey, you can be cool without, I don't know. It's Japan, post old school Japan, but still giving him that kind of emotional weight to carry around, literally, or push around, also is what inspires certain storylines. Case in point, The Mandalorian. Mandalorian is a story about the gunslinger guy, aka the samurai guy, aka Star Wars Jedi's, and with the now responsibility of raising this separate little perspective being, and how that kind of forms their universe, right? Their mindset. You can might even think about The Last of Us featuring Joel and Ellie on PlayStation stuff, and you can also see how that also gets inspired by the book The Road, and where the road came from, who knows? But still, just I believe it's the weight of giving a ultimate killing machine, right? If he's an executioner, if he's a gunslinger, if he's the what have you, the Jedi, the feared Jedi, or whatever, or the feared Mandalorian, right? The bounty hunter. What then do they hold dear? What, if not for themselves, what do they spend their lives killing for? And putting that into perspective and giving this gentleman his offspring and him having to make that decision of, I can either let this child sleep in peace, my wife is dead, my family is gone, we're about to be like chased by assassins on a day-to-day basis. But the choice to no, choosing to take away your son's life is probably a decision that no man could rationally maybe make. And if you want to get super analytical with that, you might even have to think about was it Abraham? No, the guy who was gonna sacrifice his son to Jesus as a sacrifice. I don't even know these names anymore. But yeah, the idea of how far would you go for your creed, for your lineage, right? Whether it be that guy that was about to burn his son in for the offering of of his god at the time, or whether it's the idea of this samurai man deciding whether to let his son go in peace or be forced to carry him through the mud, through the blood, through the sweat, and the countless, bloodshed. This child will not have a life, a normal life. This child will not know happiness as a normal human being. And this child is now doomed to walk the path of destruction. But for what matter? What goal and what ending? And for that, apparently we got more movies to go. So unfortunately, I cannot give you the big details, but what I can tell you is that there is some bona fide samurai katana-ness happening in here. It is very well presented in terms of a like a piece, like a set piece. Things look amazing. Just the idea of the characters and kind of the villages that they have to put together. Certain scenes are very intense, and I don't know why that had to be there, but at the same time, they show a layer of a human being, and well, maybe that's just something that they really wanted in those movies at that era. So thinking about that as well. And the decision, right? The decision to have the easy life, to settle down, to stay somewhere, to maybe have a way out, and maybe actually give this child a chance. But for those with the mission, for those with the goal, with the the necessity, there is no choice, and there is only the path towards the end. So, with all that being said, yes, it's true. I have sniffles. And apparently I did not have the immunity to overpower K-pop stands, so it happened. They got me, and did my best to lay it out and be cool about it. But just yeah, this cool little thing. Alamo Draft House was not great. I'm so ready to be out of that place, and we have one more film to go, which is Rand. When this all originally started, Rand was the first movie theater to sell out. So I'm thinking this might be the one. However, what happens and how we get there, it's gonna be a fun part. So hey, if you like that, if you like this, if you're curious about Samurai Guys and how Demon Slayer got its inspiration, right here. So, with all that being said, got a lot of fun things. I'm gonna take care of my health. I'm gonna try to get better, drink a lot of vitamin C, and apparently we might have some Fortnite tonight. So look forward to that. And if you like that, like this, subscribe, and I'll catch you on a new one. But until then, hasta la próxima. Get some rest. Ciao. Matane. Sniffles.